this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 51. Overall, it's actually a pretty fun card. There are some fights that were grinders or not that great. Otherwise, not too bad. I didn't do too bad in my picks, 7 out of 11. Definitely some of them, like Arlovsky, Bigfoot, and whatnot, Sullivan, Araujo, definitely has me looking at some of these guys better in hindsight. Bonuses, as far as the bonuses go, T-Bow and Hallman got Fight of the Night, while Arlovsky and Pepe got Performance of the Night honors. I think some things to note here. Some people are claiming hometown cooking into Tornado versus Silva fight. I know some people were saying early stoppage in the Oliveira versus Ponzinibbio fight. I don't think so, actually. So yeah, let's just get right to it. Andrei Arlovsky defeated Antonio Bigfoot Silva by knockout in the first round. There's a lot to say here, actually, and there's a lot to look into in hindsight. So here's some things in hindsight that, like, you know, it's like, well, maybe Arlovsky should have had greater consideration. Obviously, Arlovsky looked really bad against Brendan Schaub. I mean, quite honestly, there are fights like that with Arlovsky. There's a couple fights, even like Travis Fulton, you know, I mean, he knocked him out, but he doesn't always look great. Here's some interesting stuff about him. He has not been KO'd in the last 3.5 years. You know, because a lot of his losses are by KO or TKO. But, you know, so it makes you think, oh, he's up against a big guy, oh, he'll probably get knocked out. And then he doesn't get knocked out. You know, it's like, well, he fought Anthony Rumble Johnson, and he didn't actually get finished by strikes in that fight, you know. So it makes you actually wonder if it, I mean, his defense is still pretty bad, but maybe his chin isn't that bad, but he's just going up against hard hitters. I don't know. Another narrative that's been being asked in this fight is TRT, actually. Did Antonio Bigfoot Silva and I know he's always been kind of a slower fighter and whatnot, but in this fight he looked like immobile. He's just trying to counterpunch. But did TRT really help Antonio Silva's performances and overall performance in the past? I don't know how many times he got an exemption for. I think it was only like, as far as I know he's needed it for his gigantism. Is it acromegalia or something like that? So I know he's needed it for a while. He's actually tested positive for banned substances and whatnot. So that's been a narrative that's being talked about with Antonio Bigfoot Silva right now. It's like, how much is it helping him? But, you know, a lot of people are saying, hey, he's a case of a guy that truly needs TRT. That's the thing. To function. But as far as it in fighting goes, you know, how much is it really helping him or not? You know, it's tough to say. In this fight, superior movement and hand speed from Arlovsky. Just some great, especially with those right hands. He was hitting them like all day, using combinations. The other thing with Arlovsky too, man, he just seemed more confident in the cage. I mean, just a guy who just was not afraid to pull the trigger. You know, it's not, you know, a lot of fights, especially when he was losing or just looking bad, he just totally failed to pull the trigger. He looked really confident here. And interestingly enough, Arlovsky just beat the number 4 UFC heavyweight in the first round. Travis Brown couldn't do that, and the only guys that have managed to do that so far are like Daniel Cormier in Strikeforce and Cain Velasquez. Mark Hunt couldn't do that over 5 rounds. Overeem got knocked out by him. So that's the thing with Bigfoot, you know, not many people stop Bigfoot Silva. Arlovsky did in the first round. I'm going to say this right now, too. I don't think it's that unreasonable to give Andrei Arlovsky a title shot. I think there are better options to do, for sure. But the fact of the matter is, after Verdum versus Velasquez for the title, I don't think there's really this like clear-cut guy to get a title shot. Stipe Miocic probably has the best like win streak right now. He has wins over like Roy Nelson and Gabriel Gonzaga, which are probably like his 2 biggest wins. But those 2 are seen more as like barely top 10, kind of gatekeeper to like the very top guys. He doesn't have that one huge signature win. Ben Rothwell is coming off a win over Overeem, so he does have the signature win. I just don't know how many people would want to see Ben Rothwell getting a title shot, especially if it's against Cain Velasquez, who Velasquez beat in Rothwell's first fight in the UFC. And then there's like the winner of Roy Nelson versus Mark Hunt. But you know, Arlovsky knocking out Bigfoot, honestly, is probably one of the bigger signature wins than any of these guys, to be perfectly honest with you. As far as rankings go, I mean, who's above him? Verdum, Junior Dos Santos, and Junior Dos Santos coming off a loss over Cain Velasquez and hasn't fought in a very long time. You know, who else is above him? I'm not too sure who else is in the... obviously Velasquez. Yeah, I don't know who's number 3. Was it like Travis Brown or something? No, but he beat Travis Brown. I don't know who's number 3, but like, nonetheless, out of all those guys I just mentioned, Arlovsky's win over Bigfoot, rankings-wise, is better than pretty much most heavyweight contenders out there that are like coming off of wins, pretty much. So if you have to, and also he's a fan favorite, and if you don't give him a title shot now, he's never gonna get one. Would he beat Verdum or Cain Velasquez? Probably not Cain Velasquez. Verdum, he's beaten him before, so it's not outside the realm of possibility for Arlovsky to beat Verdum. Verdum's greatly improved since then, especially in the striking. So, I mean, if they said tomorrow, hey, Arlovsky, that's the winner of Verdum versus Velasquez, I don't think too many people will be like, oh, man, he doesn't deserve it, or anything like that. They'll be like, oh, it's heavyweight. That's the other thing, too, it's heavyweight. You know, the list of contenders isn't, like, great, you know. Arlovsky's a fan favorite. Do I think many people pick Arlovsky to beat those guys? Probably not. Other options for Arlovsky, though, he can get the winner of Nelson versus Hunt. Stipe Miocic there. He can get a rematch with Ben Rothwell. He did knock him out back in Affliction back in the day. So he can do that as well. And any of those fights would be potential number 1 contender fights. As far as Bigfoot Silva, I mean, you give him like, you know, the guy's like kind of out of title contention for a while now. Given some people come off a loss, maybe like a Josh Barnett called out Silva. Yeah, if you want to give him Junior Dos Santos, it wouldn't be the worst fight. I mean, if you want to go with the loser of Travis Brown versus Brendan Schaub, you can do that. Or you can do like the loser of Nelson versus Hunt. Wouldn't be the worst fight either. Or Bigfoot versus Gonzaga wouldn't be too bad either. Next fight after that, Gleison Tibau defeated Piotr Hamann by split decision. Man, you know, this is very much a Tibau fight. And it's pretty much almost exactly how I thought it'd go. I mean, Tibau won by split decision. I thought that was the right call, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought Tibau won the first 2 rounds. The second round being, you know, could have gone either way. But I leaned a little more towards Tibau. But this is Tibau, man. This guy, it's like, okay, Piotr Hamann, 27 years old, got some good wins over Eve Edwards and Francisco Trinaldo. Kind of still a prospect. See if you're ready for the top guys. Oh, no, you lost to Gleison Tibau. You know what I mean? Not ready yet. That's the thing. Totally shows just what type of or like what role Tibau has in the UFC, and that's lightweight gatekeeper to the top of the division. That's the thing. That's not to say that people who have lost, like Rafael Dos Anjos actually lost to Gleison Tibau. It took a pretty long while for Dos Anjos to finally get back up there and get his signature win over like Donald Cerrone to show he is in the top. So that's the thing. But as far as like the immediate future, I mean, there are guys like Evan Dunham who ended up fizzling out, who beat Tibau. But even during that time, Evan Dunham was doing really well, or relatively well during that time, until now he's just kind of regressed. Momo Gallard, when he was in that really good win streak, way back when he was still with Jackson's before he lost to Lozon, he beat Gleison Tibau actually. So, you know, it kind of just showed, and then Gallard was in this really good win streak, you know, he's just, and was kind of sniffing at contendership. So, and then Michael Johnson beat Tibau, knocked him out, and now I think Michael Johnson's kind of seen as a guy that's really an up-and-comer. He can probably beat top 10 guys. So, Tibau, perfect gatekeeper. You know, and it's the same thing with him. He wins the first 2 rounds, and he gets like killed in the third. Like the whole time in the third, I was just saying, "Oh man, Tibau, just survive. You'll probably win," and that's exactly what happened. Hallman, man, I like this guy. You know, he's good everywhere, just not great everywhere. But the guy is just always pushing forward. He's got a really good chin. He's a very workman-like fighter, you know, very blue-collar fighter. But on a technical level, he still needs some work. You know, he's like the definition of good but not great in a sense. Solid but not spectacular. You know. Other up-and-comers right now that Tibau should probably fight. Ally Aquinta is actually coming off a good win over Ardigo Dam. So that would be a good fight for Tibau. So that's what Tibau should be. You know, he's the perfect gatekeeper. Or he's just going to fight some mid-card guy that's like on his way out or something like that. Like, okay, oh, we can't truly justify getting rid of this guy, but let's feed him Tibau. Tibau wins, we'll cut the opponent, you know? We'll cut that guy who lost to Tibau or something, you know? But otherwise, who else is up and coming? I mean, maybe go Barboza even. Barboza, Tibau. That's a pretty tough stylistic matchup for Barboza, but that'll be a really good, like, oh, hey, he should be fighting, like, more top 10 guy guys type of if Edson Barboza wins against T-Bow, kind of justifies him fighting more top 10 guys. Tony Ferguson, I forgot about him. He's just coming off that win over Danny Castillo. If you want to do that, that works as well. Hallman, just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division for him. Next fight, that Leonardo Santos defeated Efrain Escudero by unanimous decision. So this fight, begs the question, dude. What is the UFC doing signing Efrain Escudero for the third time? Guy is like very much a journeyman at this point. He's not a prospect. He has no role in the UFC, and what I said in the predictions was I cannot trust Escudero to beat Leonardo Santos. And this fight was actually very much proof of that. He actually drops Santos in the second and more or less just kind of lets him recover. Like I said, it's just Efrain, he has skills. He's a decent enough striker, good enough wrestler, isn't terrible on the ground. Like, he's good everywhere or decent everywhere. He doesn't have a true liability in any one aspect of MMA. He's just good enough everywhere. But fight IQ wise, not the greatest. Grapples when he should be striking. He strikes when he should be grappling. Actually, in this fight, I think his corner actually said to strike with the guy, so that's the thing with him. And then, like I said, I couldn't trust the guy to win, and that's the thing. He had his chance in the second round. Could have maybe swarmed or something. I know Santos is a jiu-jitsu black belt, but at the same time, you can't let opportunities like that, dropping a guy and really kind of sitting back, even when he got back to his feet. Kind of Escudero took his foot off the pedal, more or less, So I wonder if he gets cut after this fight, And then Santos, he's decent he's like good enough, just good enough to be in the UFC, but he doesn't offer much. Seriously, the guy's like in his 30s. He's kind of a jiu-jitsu guy. He still has some liability in the striking department. It's not much of an action. He doesn't have that fun of fights. He's not much of a gatekeeper. So, yeah. I know some people were saying that there's always that one or two fights on the main card that's always like, yeah, oversaturation. And this is it. It's like Leonardo Santos versus Efrain Escudero. It's kind of like, if you actually think about it in hindsight, it's like, well, what's it doing in the main card? Okay, it's two lower level guys. Are any of these guys prospects? No. Are any of these guys action fighters? No. you know what I mean? That's the thing. There's no reason for this fight really to be on the main card. Looking at the undercard, though, there's really not many fights I would put in the undercard over this one. There aren't really any real good prospects on the undercard or anything like that. But nonetheless, it's just like lower level guys on the main card of a UFC card. Even though it's a Fight Pass card, it's still the main card, and I just don't understand what this fight's really doing there. It's just two lower level guys that quite honestly, I can't predict the future, but I'm going to assume aren't going to do much in the UFC. Escudero should probably get cut. If they want to keep him for whatever reason, they can. They want to give some guy sometimes they use guys to give a guy that has some potential to get a win, maybe with Escudero or something like that. I'd probably cut Escudero. Santos, just some more lower to mid-tier guys at the division for him. Oh wait, there's actually something else I want to say about this fight. Santos, Nova União. He's Ivar Nova União. And I noticed that he was particularly bigger than Efrain Escudero. The other thing that was actually what I read afterwards is that he had a brutal weight cut to for this fight. And I'm like putting the pieces together with like Nova União and like weight cutting. It's like Claudia Gadelha, she fights at 115. She's huge for the weight class. Burrell's pretty big for the weight class. Dantas isn't really big for the weight class. Jose Aldo, pretty big for the weight class. It's just like Santos. He looked a lot bigger than Escudero. Well, he fought him welterweight too. Really big for. It's like that camp really seems like their fighters are cutting as much weight as they can to get to the lowest weight class as they possibly could. And it's very consistent across the board with a lot of their fighters. Other camps do that too, though. So you can't really blame them. How huge is Gleison Tebow? Thiago Alves has been making 170 for a while, and he's actually looking more like a 170-er these days. He's not as muscular. But for a while, that guy was huge, and he had a hard time cutting to 170. I understand that other camps do it too, but it's really getting a lot more noticeable, in particular with the Nova União camp, that they're doing that. Kind of across the board with a lot of their fighters. It's helped a good amount of them too. Renan Barão, he tends to be taller than a lot of fighters. Same with Jose Aldo against Chad Mendes. He looks like a weight class bigger than him. Claudia Gadelha is huge for a weight class. So but they're very skilled too. So to say it's just the weight cut that's helping them is being very disingenuous. So a lot of those guys that have found great success is also due to legit skill. But it's hard not to notice it, especially when you keep hearing about it. It's hey, Leonardo Santos had a brute. You go on a website. Oh, Leonardo Santos had this brutal weight cut to 155. It's well, geez, didn't we just hear about Renan Barão, having a brutal 20-some-odd pound weight cut to fight Dillashaw, and it didn't happen because he hit his head or something like that. He fainted and hit his head or something like that. It's yeah, but that's a brutal weight cut. And you keep hearing about Jose Aldo, brutal weight cut, so. It's definitely something that's very interesting with the Nova União camp at this time. And next fight after that, Santiago Ponzinibbio defeated Wendell Oliveira by TKO in the first round. Some people were calling it early salvage here. I thought it was a fine salvage, it was a total flash knockout. Yeah, Oliveira, he went down and his eyes rolled the back of his head. You can tell. The way he slumped down is total knocked out, but then he got right back up. I picked Oliveira to win this one. He actually did use the counter striking that I thought he'd use, but it wasn't enough. Ponzinibbio was pretty much swarmed him, and looked pretty good doing it too. I think Ponzinibbio can be something of I don't know if he's much of a prospect. Less Ryan LaFleur, granted. Ryan LaFleur is actually pretty good. So, but as far as right now, I think Ponzinibbio could, at least for the time being, could be something of a fun both these guys can be something of fun action fighters for the division. Just more lower to mid-tier guys at the division for both of these guys, really. So much I can say about the fight. Ponzinibbio was it was just a striking battle, you know? And then Oliveira got caught, I forget with what punch, but then he got wobbled, went up against a cage, you know. Most people who are watching this have seen the fight, so I don't really know if I need to recap that. What happened exactly, anyways. Next fight after that, Yuri Alcantara defeated Russell Doane by unanimous decision. I agree with this decision. I think there were a lot of times where Alcantara was doing a lot more from the bottom than Doane was doing from the top. Besides some ground and pound in the second round, I didn't really feel that Russell Doane had much against Alcantara except for wrestling. I mean, I wasn't... and that actually was kind of the same thing against Marcus Brimage. He had better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, but like, every time Doane would take down Alcantara would sweep and or get back to his feet. So, and on the feet, Alcantara was just like lighting Doane up. But, you know, this fight really points out that, man, Alcantara's takedown defense is really bad. I mean, I remember watching the Hakan Diaz fight and thinking, okay, that's really bad takedown defense. And he lost a fight, mainly because he got taken down a bunch of times. But he doesn't pummel under well at all. I'm so high on the guy because his Muay Thai is really good, his offense is really strong, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like really good. Even from the bottom, he's not a guy that'll throw like too many triangles or arm bars or anything like that. But he is a guy that looks for sweeps. That's the thing. He'll get, or else he'll try and get back to his feet, grab like a leg, try and get back to his feet or something like that. So he's really crafty on the ground in that sense. And his offense, really good stuff, especially in the stand-up. I think he should probably get the win over Sancho versus Caraway. I would say that guy should probably get a title shot, but the thing is, Mizugaki fights Cruz, and I'm sure, especially if Dominic Cruz beats Dillashaw, that they're going to go with Cruz versus Dillashaw. So, I'm going to guess that Alcantara gets a win over Sancho Caraway. Speaking of that takedown defense thing, though, I mean, Caraway is like the most two-dimensional guy out there. He's like, striking is still something of liability. He does have a good chin, but he's a really good wrestler. He's really good at completing takedowns when his opponent is against a cage, and then he works his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. So that can be fun in a grappling sense, but wrestling-wise, I think Caraway could take Alcantara down early and often, to be perfectly honest with you. Sancho could probably actually take down Alcantara as well. But I think that fight would be pretty cool because Sancho's gotten way better in the stand-up, and both of them are very good on the ground. So I think that would be a pretty cool fight, actually. See a Sancho versus Alcantara. If not one of those guys, you can go with Johnny Eduardo. Still hasn't gotten in a fight since his big upset win over Eddie Wineland. Or another guy that fought for a while. I know he's coming off a loss. Michael McDonald, you know. For Russell Doane, just more lower to mid-tier guys in the division. I can't really say much else there, though. Next fight after that, Jessica Andrade defeated Larissa Moreira Pacheco by guillotine in the first round. This was just domination from Andrade. I mean, she managed to get Pacheco to the ground, pass her guard at will, beat her up, got the side mount, beat her up at will. I mean, just totally, pretty much big sistered her, you know, pretty much. Andrade, you know, I remember my friend was watching her, and it's like, man, she reminds me of Vanderlei Silva. It's like, yeah. Ever since that Rosie Sexton fight, it's just like, she looks down, wings a bunch of haymakers, super aggressive, pushes forward all the time, high pressure, not the most technical, kind of, you know, but it works. It's probably not going to work as she moves up, but for now, it works. Pacheco, nothing. It's just nothing. She lost to a guillotine. At first look, I was just like, oh man, why'd she tap to that guillotine? And I didn't look that tight. On the replay though, her arm was trapped, and it actually looked a lot tighter on the replay. So just domination from Andrade there. She needs some top 10 fighters. Maybe Sarah Kaufman, the winner of Miesha Tate versus Ren Nakai, or Betch Correa. Next for Andrade. With Pacheco, he's coming off a loss here. Lauren Murphy's coming off a loss. Lauren Murphy, Jessica Evil Eye. The loser of Tate versus Nakai. You go lower down the card too if you want. I give him some like Jermaine Durandami or something like that. So there's people to give Pacheco to. Canada prelims, Godofredo Pepe defeated Deshaun Johnson by triangle armbar in the first round. Deshaun Johnson, and I was saying this, I said this ever since he got signed to the UFC, that he comes from the Explode Fight series. And while there are some guys that are pretty decent that came out of Explode Fight series, like Derek Anderson, well, he comes from the gym. I don't know if he fights out of there. And I know Robbie Peralta fights out of that gym too, but the thing is, once Johnson got into the UFC, it just he just wasn't good enough. He's not the greatest boxer for MMA, and he's still quite a liability on the ground. And his record of opponents that he's beaten is really bad. He more or less was can crushing in Explode Fight Series. Should probably get cut after this. Pepe, he's barely good enough to hang in to the UFC. He does have a good win over Lawad Nahat. By flying knee. But yeah, he's definitely a guy that'll either win spectacularly or lose spectacularly. Save for the Honey Jason fight, which wasn't that great. But when Pepe's lost like Orontes or Sam Cecilia, he just got ground and pounded to oblivion. But when he beat like Lahad and Johnson, it's just like spectacular finishes. Nice triangle armbar from Pepe though, it just, he went to mount too, rolled to mount, got that armbar. Deshaun Johnson he's not that good on the ground. This is the second time he's lost like a triangle. Well, this one had the armbar with it. Jake Matthews just big brother Deshaun Johnson, and then one with the triangle. Like I said, Deshaun, he needs seasoning in the regional scene. Pepe is probably going to stay around the lower to mid tier of the division. That's pretty much who you should get. I don't think of him as much of a prospect. Striking, he's still something of a brawler. He looked better in the striking here, but he's not the most technically sound striker. He's not a great wrestler. He's still one of the few UFC fighters to pull guard. And that's actually cost him. Like I said, to like Sam Cecilia and Felipe Arantes. So, his best skill is being unorthodox, I guess. Just being something of a loose cannon. But he does have legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. It's more lower to mid-tier guys at division for him. Next right after that, George Sullivan defeated Igor Araujo by knockout in the second round. I definitely should have rethought this pick, man. This was definitely one. In hindsight, I definitely should have gone with George Sullivan. He looked good against Rhodes, and one thing that he was showing against Rhodes was high pressure and high volume striking. And in this fight, high volume and lots of pressure. And so look out for George Sullivan. I think he is something of a Mike Pierce. Just that really tough out workman-like type fighter. He's probably never going to sniff contendership. Probably never going to sniff the top 10. But he's in your face. Very workman-like. Not always the most technical. But, you're going to have to work all 3 rounds in order to beat this guy. Igor Araujo, he had nothing. I mean, nothing, not much in the stand-up. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he couldn't get much off, or much of anything off against Sullivan. So that's the thing with Sullivan. When he's up against more like mid-level guys, probably favor Sullivan to win. But there's a lot of these workman-like type fighters in welterweight. So there's like Court McGee. I said Mike Pierce. Ryan LaFleur is a workman-like. But he's more... The thing with LaFleur is he's more technical. That's the thing. Kenny Robertson, somewhat workman-like, he's more of a wrestler. But he's always pushing forward and whatnot. So you get a lot of those type of guys in the division. Sullivan's just another guy to add to that mix. He's just got more lower to mid-tier guys at the division. And pretty much the rest of these guys should get the lower to mid-tier guys at the division. Next fight after that, Francisco Trinaldo defeated Leandro Silva by unanimous decision. A lot of people thought that Silva should have got the nod here. Trinaldo's definitely got some liabilities. He's big for the weight class, but still doesn't stop him from getting taken down and being put on his back, especially by guys who are also relatively big in the division. Michael Chiesa, Gleison Tebow. Piotr Hallman actually managed to take him down too. Silva managed to take down Trinaldo a good amount of times. Trinaldo, he just keeps trucking, I guess. I can't really say much. Stand-up's alright. He is pretty good on the ground. Not the greatest on his back. Definitely something more of a front-runner type of fighter, Takedown defense, decent. Trinaldo's takedown defense is decent, but not spectacular. He's just getting more lower to mid-tier guys of the division, really. With Silva, I guess they can keep the guy. He didn't look terrible. Many people thought he should have got the win. It's more lower to mid-tier guys in the division for him. Next about that, Sean Spencer defeated Paul Thiago by unanimous decision. Paul Thiago's just regressed, man. This guy, his chin's not very good. He's noticeably slow. His cardio is really bad. Honestly, he should probably retire. He just does not look good. He now has 3 losses in a row against increasingly lower level competition, and his chin just is not holding up. It's pretty sad to see because I like the guy, but he can't hang anymore. Sean Spencer has been kind of showing to be a good mid-level welterweight. Hey, another workman-like fighter. See a lot of those types in welterweight. High volume, not the most. Doesn't have the biggest knockout power per se. He's sitting down his punches a lot better these days though, because he's starting against like Alex Garcia, and now he dropped Thiago, who doesn't have the best chin though. But Spencer, high volume striker. On the feet, pretty solid there, not spectacular. Good takedown defense. A guy that's really gonna have to work to get the win over Sean Spencer. So he's a good. I wouldn't really call him much of a prospect per se. I think he still is in that prospect level, but I don't really see this really high ceiling for him or anything like that. But he's shown to be a pretty decent mid-level guy, Like I was saying with George Sullivan, very workmanlike. Something he has workmanlike performances. Thiago should probably get cut after this, as far as Sean Spencer goes. Just more lower to mid-tier guys of the division. And finally, Ronnie Yaya defeated Johnny Bedford by submission by Kimura in the second round. No glove touch at the beginning of the fight. I mean, Yaya just... He wanted to beat up Bedford, man. And he looked like... every cliche you can think. A man on a mission. He's on fire, whatever. But yeah, Yaya, he's really good on the ground. He's still something of a liability in the stand-up. Didn't have the greatest gas tank. He exhausts himself trying to get takedowns because he's so relentless about getting takedowns that it seems like he just exhausts himself. But he's been something of a reasonable gatekeeper. Actually, pretty similar to Gleison Tebow, actually, for bantamweights, at least at the lower levels. So he has a role, at least, there. He's still someone to fear very much on the ground. With Bedford, though, I mean, dude, this guy keeps fouling in the cage. I mean, it's just like, he's clearly, like, kicked Yaya in, like, the neck, I mean, this guy just has no, like, self-control. And he seems to be a really bad sport, too, from what I read, he didn't, like, shake Yaya's hand afterwards or something like that, or something to that nature. And Bedford hasn't won a fight since, like, 2012 or something like that. I think he hasn't won a fight his last 3 fights. He should probably get cut after this. Yaya, just be a gatekeeper to 135. So that's it for my post-fight analysis for UFC Fight Night 51. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.